I'm joined in the studio by Philip Turle, our international affairs editor. I mean, Philip, it's fair to say a lot to unpack there. Guterres, a reasonably long speech where he spoke about, the dangerous, disturbing, endless cycle of horror and bloodshed. And he also touched on this nuclear conflict, saying that, it's totally unacceptable that a nuclear conflict should be on the table in this day and age. What did you make of Antonio Guterres' speech?
Well, this is underlining remarks that he already made in his opening speech to the UN General Assembly 2 days ago. And I think that what the General Secretary of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, would like to get is more cohesion within the UN and more support within the UN against the war in Ukraine, especially from those countries that are hesitating to join with the European Union, with the United States, and with other countries in the West in condemning the war in Ukraine, who haven't said anything. We're thinking particularly of China and India and Belarus and Syria, North Korea and Ethiopia. They're the countries who have stood out for being not absent on the international scene when it comes to condemning the war, by simply saying, this is Antonio Guterres, that we are facing a very dangerous period. We're facing a period where, for example, if there is an attack against the Zaporizhzhia plant, that is going to cause major concern for those living close by, but also much further afield, in a reminder of what happened in the Chernobyl explosion back in 1986, although the Zaporizhzhia plant is much better built than Chernobyl. And he says that there are far more widespread effects of the war in Ukraine, which are being felt right the way around the world, with the rise in food prices, fuel prices and gas prices, which are a direct fallout of the combat in Ukraine. And the only way to end the suffering is to end the war. Now, this is a meeting of the UN Security Council, which is taking place now. There are 5 permanent members of that UN Security Council, including Russia. And so Sergei Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister, is due to speak a little bit later on this afternoon. We'll see what he has to say about the war in Ukraine, but I don't expect that he will make any kind of change to the Russian position. He will just reiterate that Russia is defending its own territory, it's defending its borders against attacks from the West, and particularly from NATO expansion, saying that Russia is the victim in this conflict and it is only trying to help its brothers in Ukraine, and that is why Vladimir Putin decided to launch this, what is called special military operation. But the bottom line here is that Russia is in difficulty. It's calling up more reservists because its war plan is not going according to plan. Even Vladimir Putin has, for the first time in that announcement yesterday, admitted that the plans are not going as he would like them to. So what this means is, I think, during this General Assembly meeting, we've seen an upping of the ante from the Russians, threatening the West with calling in more reservists and also with using eventually nuclear weapons if that is needed, because they are portraying themselves as the victim and not as the perpetrator in this conflict.
Well, as you say, Philip, still a lot more to come out of today's UN Security Council meeting. Notably, Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov is set to speak. We will, of course, be following that for you here on France 24.